It's going to be very important to see where this retracement for crypto could end up at. First things first, I'm going to be talking about Bitcoin because that is the driver of this crypto market. If Bitcoin retraces or dips even more, that's going to bring down quite a bit of the altcoins here. So it's very important to be paying attention to Bitcoin right now, still, because it is still in this huge bearish pattern here. This is a rising wedge pattern. Okay, rising wedges have a higher chance of breaking to the downside. If it actually breaks down here, for example, the breakdown target would be almost $80,000, and that's going to be catastrophic for the altcoins, okay, for a lot of the altcoins here. Now, it is running within almost to the end of this channel here. As you guys can see, it is tightening, right? That means there is going to be a move soon, okay? The bulls and bears are basically battling it out right here. The bears are saying that this is the top, right? And I want to short this, which is understandable. There's quite a bit of technical bearish signals, including bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, okay? However, there has been exceptions during major breakouts, especially where these bearish divergence has have been invalidated. One of which would include November and December of last year, of course, and then last time before then was December and basically December of 2020. And then looking back into the data, you guys can look into the data of the RSI. You guys can see that there was also an invalidation of bearish divergence on the monthly time frame in 2017, late 2017. Okay, so could this be a case? I have my money on it. I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here. So my opinions on this market is bullish. That's because I think aside from seeing some bullish technical signals, which includes the monthly RSI, we're still nowhere near previous bull cycle FOMO levels, right? We're still, I mean, if we actually take a look into the monthly RSI here, we're still pretty low, right? Comparing to the previous bull cycle levels, right? In those way overbought levels, we haven't gone there yet. Okay, so that's what I'm betting on in terms of on the technical aspect of it, right? Because we haven't had that blow off top. Now, there are some macro factors as well, which includes the Fed. The Federal Reserve has actually just started its Fed rate cut cycle, right? As well as the stock market. It has broke through all-time highs, and it has also broken through a, a bearish rising wedge like this, okay? Um, a couple of weeks ago, which I talked about. So this is why. This is why I'm still bullish on this market, but of course, these are just my opinions, not financial advice. Like the entirety of this video, you guys gotta form your own opinions and strategies. Now, let's go ahead and take a look into a shorter time frame for Bitcoin here before we get into some altcoin setups, which it will include AI16Z, which has been very popular. I am also long on AI16Z with leverage. I am looking to take a short-term profit on that. We're also going to be taking a look into XYO Network as well as Cheems, the meme coin, which had a pretty good week this week. Okay, I've talked about Cheems before, and the wonderful thing about technical analysis, which I think it should be the main takeaway for you guys when watching these videos, is to learn the basics of technical analysis so you can actually judge what's going on in the charts for your own. And that is going to be very important if you guys want to be in this game, this trading game for the long run. Okay. I am a firm believer of technical analysis. It took me from having almost zero knowledge in this crypto market just 5 years ago to talking to you guys here on YouTube with probably much more knowledge. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look into this daily time frame here. I think a rebound could be coming soon for Bitcoin, especially if this pattern holds. Okay, so we have we have bullish divergence on this hourly time frame, right? It has actually just broken through quite a bit of these shorter term moving averages. A possible double bottom that could be playing out, possible. Looking like it's probably going to get invalidated, but there is still bullish divergence. It's very important to learn divergence. You guys should Google what that is. Bullish and bearish divergence. It's going to be very simple, very effective to learn. It will give you a huge edge in trading reversals. There's also going to be possible divergence, or there is already divergence on the 4-hour time frame. So let's see if some of these will play out because they have a higher chance of reversing, right? Let's go ahead and go to some news first before diving deeper into the charts here. So let's take a look into the first piece of news here. I'll give you guys my very quick reaction. This is by ZY Crypto. Okay, Luxembourg conquers new grounds as becomes the first Eurozone nation to invest in Bitcoin. So yeah, more nations are investing in Bitcoin. That is definitely, that's definitely bullish for the crypto markets, of course. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. Why did Bitcoin price might never drop below 100K again? I think this is going to be a very interesting read here. Why is that? So, crypto analyst Plan B, which has explained why the Bitcoin price may never drop below 100K again. So, um, I think there's still a chance. Okay, to be honest, I know that there has been quite a bit of consolidation at about the 70,000 level, right? If we get a blow off top at the end of this bull cycle, I think there is a chance that it goes all the way down to 70K again at the end of this bull cycle, of course. I remember the last bull cycle, we never thought it was going to go down to 15K, but it did. And then when it was down at 15K, we never thought it would come back here, but it did. Okay. So, there's going to be a wide variety of opinions. You really have to judge it for yourself. Okay. And if you have been in this game for a couple of years, you could probably just make more of a judgment for yourself. All right, this is by Cointelegraph. October marks 21 crypto ETF filings as Bitcoin climbs. Over the last 2 months, at least 31 crypto exchange traded funds ETFs applications were filed with the US SEC, 21 of which were filed in the first 8 days of October. So, quite a bit of ETFs coming, right? I wonder what are these all Bitcoin ETFs or some of them altcoin ETFs, because I think that's going to make a huge difference. It doesn't really say. Let's see. Does it? So there are Stellar Lumens, XLM. Is there XLM? Let's see. Other funds include iShare Bitcoin Premium Income ETF, Bitwise. So there is a Hyperliquid ETF, Grayscale XLM ETF. I think that's going to be very good for some of these bigger altcoins. Avalanche ETF. And then some submissions, which include Chainlink, Solana, SEI, and even the Trump coin. Okay, so pretty interesting, right? So that's good. I think that's definitely bullish for not just Bitcoin, but the bigger altcoin markets as well. All right, so next piece here is going to be by Crypto News. Analysts, Bitcoin could turn parabolic or end bull run within 100 days. Okay, so let's see here. Bitcoin's bull run may be approaching a decisive moment. Yes, I think, in my opinion, yes, it's going to be the rising wedge that we're talking about here, that I've been pointing out here. If we're actually able to break out of this rising wedge to the upside, I think this thing could turn parabolic in the next couple of days to weeks, just depending on how long it takes for this thing to play out, right? And that's definitely gonna drive the altcoins higher. Okay. Now let's see, why 100 days. So Bitcoin's volatility is at record lows, with Bollinger Bands signaling a major breakout or breakdown within the next 100 days. I think it's going to be sooner than 100 days. What I'm really looking at is the the rising wedge, right? If we're going to get a breakout here, great for Bitcoin. If we actually break down here, which the probability suggests that we're going to break down just in terms of a technical analysis standpoint, but I did see a bear trap for the stock market, S&P 500, which I pointed out to you guys, right? I'll give you guys the chart in just a second. So, and that has high correlation with Bitcoin. Could Bitcoin follow its footsteps? I mean, I got my money on it, but that's just me, not financial advice. All right, next piece is Coin by Coinpedia. Bitcoin on the verge of a breakout, $137,000 target in sight if this trade setup confirms. I'm not sure about the 137,000, but what I'm looking at here is going to be you're going to have to break basically 130K first if we're talking about a breakout this week. And if we're talking about a breakout of this rising wedge pattern in later weeks, it's gonna get into the 130s for a breakout point, right? So this is still what I'm looking at. Very important for this 120K range to hold because this is the weekly time frame. As you guys can see, we have broken above some of those resistance levels back in the weeks of July and August. So it's very important for those support levels to be holding. Otherwise, we lose that support, and it's going to be looking more likely that we break down from here. Let's go to ES1 exclamation mark, which is the stock market futures. Okay, and let me show you guys what I'm talking about here, which is basically it had a very similar pattern, a smaller rising wedge pattern, and the stock market looked like it was going to break down, but the bulls bought it right back up. That is called a bear trap, and instead, the stock market actually broke out to the upside against its probabilities of this rising wedge pattern. Now, stock market has a high correlation with Bitcoin, so could Bitcoin do the same thing, right? That is one bullish argument that I also have for Bitcoin. Now, I also want to take you guys to another chart here, which is, of course, the Fed rate cut that's coming up in a likely Fed rate cut that's coming up in October. That's going to be very important because remember when because I think a lot of these risk on assets is being driven by the Fed, right? So remember back in December when the Fed decided that they were gonna stop rate cuts, and how did the markets like that? Not very much, and that's where it took us to a downtrend, basically from 110 to about 70 something, right, on Bitcoin. So we're still at a 95% chance of a rate cut for October, so that's looking good. Of course, these probabilities could change. Let me take you guys to another chart here, which is going to be very interesting because this is the Google Trends in the US, people searching for the term Bitcoin, and this chart here is the weekly data points, and it's been very accurate if we actually just track this going back to 2020, and I mean, it's right now. It's still looking up. That there's more people, more retail interest looking for Bitcoin. So that is good. That's definitely bullish for Bitcoin if this trend continues. All right, so those are some of the bullish points I wanted to make for my case. So let's go ahead and take a look into altcoins. Let's take a look into AI16Z here. AI16Z currently down quite steeply. Okay, and taking a look into let's do a recap here and see what has gone on with this coin, right? So talked about a falling wedge pattern here. Falling wedges have a higher chance of breaking to the upside. This is still an intact falling wedge pattern. It has been on the downside here, right? Basically very close to the bottom of this falling wedge. Now, if it breaks out here, for example, price target would be about almost 68 cents AI16Z. Now, price targets are estimates only. There could be more, there could be less. A lot of which is going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin starts dumping, these altcoin setups, they're not going to matter very much. Okay, so some things to be considering. Um, and Also have to consider the downside of falling wedges, because even though they have a higher chance of breaking to the upside, they still have a smaller chance of breaking to the downside. We're all just talking about probabilities here, not certainty. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame, daily time frame. See what if I can get some more clarity on what AI16Z could be doing. Daily time frame, I talked about falling wedges, and they just keep falling. Okay, it's not uncommon to see falling wedges. They break out, and then you see more downtrend just because of the amount of resistance that's above the price action. However, this falling wedge is still valid, because if we actually extend this falling wedge out, you can see the price action is still above this upward trend line of this falling wedge pattern. Now, since the breakout of that falling wedge, it has also formed a smaller one. It broke out of that, and this one has not hit its price target of about 17 cents, okay? And it just went on a further downtrend here. Now, another falling wedge scenario, right? If AI16Z doesn't break out of this upper trend line here, okay, it could continue going further down here and retest that bottom trend line of the biggest falling wedge pattern here that I'm showing you guys here right now, right? So some things to be paying attention to. AI16Z, of course, Bitcoin is the first chart to be paying attention to. Let's go ahead and go to XYO Network. XYO Network here. Let's take a look into the weekly time frame. Weekly time frame, I talked about a falling wedge pattern here that it broke out of back in March. So it hasn't done too much, right? Price target is going to be about 3.9 cents. Price target, still valid breakout. Price action has been very boring, but it's still above this upper trend line of this pattern it broke out of, okay? I mean, some of these would take a long time to play out, and I mean, we're not in the most straightforward bull cycle. It's not like 2021, 2017 when things went straight up and straight down. We see a lot of consolidation, which is really testing patience. Okay, but I think we'll come out on the other side. At the end of this consolidation, because every cycle ends: bull cycle, bear cycle, consolidation cycle. Now let's go ahead and now that's XYO, the bigger falling wedge pattern. It has also formed a smaller falling wedge pattern here, which I talked about last time. Let's just say if it breaks out by this point here, like let's just say by maybe in 2 weeks, okay, for example, okay, price target would now be about 1.2 cents. XYO Network, quite a bit of resistance. That's on top of XYO Network right now. Let's go ahead and go to Cheems, the meme coin. See what's happening with this meme coin. Now, I talked about about this coin about 2 months ago. Okay, more than a month ago, and it's really interesting because and I love seeing this because I can leave up a chart, right? And I left up this chart here that was more than a month ago, and it basically still played out. And that is the beauty of technical analysis. Now, based on this breakout here, I'm adjusting the price target. I also want to mention to you guys that some of these charts have been adjusted because they either have been invalidated or their price targets have been met, okay? Or I have simplified the charts, right? So, Cheems here broke out this week, basically. Price target adjusted for this week's breakout would be about 0.000005 zeros and 225 here. Okay, so that is the price target. Now, Cheems has not met that price target. I think it went up to as far as 5 zeros and 2-1. Okay, so almost there. This could be some type of a cup and handle pattern if it gets rejected at this resistance at 5 zeros and 217. That was the last resistance. I'm running out of time here. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of these altcoins by dropping a like, comment, subscribe, or any other coins in this market, I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis. I'll see you on the next one.